What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is a pop-up live. I didn't plan this or anything like that, but it is your boy, Chaplain Elder, just Kev, coming back. Just wanted to have a conversation with my peoples. It's been an interesting week on Facebook. Of course, I am flooding your timelines talking about the most interesting topic in the world for me this week is Christmas pagan. And so we have made a lot of posts. We've presented a lot of evidence. We've presented a lot of sources. And so I say, you know what? Let me jump on tonight and just share with the people. I also would love to hear from the people. So if you're jumping in, please take a moment. As we always ask you to like and share and tag someone in this broadcast. Let them know Kev's live. If you got a problem with, if you want to big up Christmas and talk about your Christmas celebrations, let me know. If you want to ask questions, let me know. But tonight is the night for you to get your information out there, to ask your questions, to ask for clarification, to argue, whatever it is you want to do tonight. You can do it on tonight. I do want to, I'm going to take a few minutes first before we get into, this and everything. I want to say thank you. First of all, many of you have talked about how you have learned so much. I love the people that engage the content that is out there and say, hey, I'm going to take a look at this stuff no matter what I believe. I'm going to take a look at the evidence that's out there, and I'm going to judge it based upon the merits of the actual evidence. And so I appreciate all of you all who have sent messages publicly and privately saying thank you for your apologetic ministry. Thank you for the hard work that is put in. Listen, y'all, I'm running out of balloons. So I'm running out of balloons tonight. And everything. Who knows? I might pop a balloon tonight, and everything on somebody. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna get me a balloon ready tonight. So if somebody got something to say, we pushing in there. But thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you for being with us tonight, man. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And to you, Lyrically Outspoken, I love that name. That is dope. So thank you as well. So now that we got a few people on, I know it take a minute. I want to offer you something. I want to give you something kind of for free, kind of not. All right. So my organization, Greater Works Discipleship Ministries, we have been doing a Christmas giveaway. And so we are asking you to go to our Facebook page, Greater Works Discipleship Ministries. Thank you so much, Fredo, BK Apologist. I'm asking you to participate in this Christmas giveaway. We have received Amazon wish lists from needy families in our communities that need a little extra help. Some people I've talked to have been evicted. Some people have been lost jobs. Some people have 9 kids. And so if you purchase something from the wish list of anybody on there, send me a DM of the screenshot of you making that purchase. We've vetted all of these wish lists. No iPhones, no, AirPods or none of that stuff on there. This is toys, dolls, all kind of stuff for kids. You buy something on there and I will give you any PowerPoint, PDF from anything on our website. All right. So again, these are some of the products that are on my website, greaterworksdiscipleship.com. I mean, we've got PowerPoints and teaching on anything you can think of. We just did this class on debunking the pagan roots of Christmas with my man, Alfredo Valentine, the BK Apologist, was with me. We had a great time. If you're looking for stuff on the Eucharist, understanding communion, baptism, discipleship, how did we get the Bible, bibliology, slavery in the Bible. I mean, there is PowerPoints on here for almost anything that you can think of. The gifts of the Spirit, how to study the Bible, urban apologetics. You can get any of these. You can get the PDF of any of these. All you got to do is do something very simple. Bless a family in need during this Christmas season. Again, look up and search the Greater Works Discipleship Ministries Facebook page, or go back through my old posts. There are families on there that could really use your help. All right. So if you purchase anything off of there from those families' Amazon wish list, you can receive any product you want, a PDF of any of these products. Just DM me with it, send me a message, and I will make sure that you receive any of those products from off of my website. I am more interested in being a blessing to these families than I am of keeping stuff and selling products and all that other good stuff. That's not what it's all about. So again, if you just want to be a blessing, we'll go on there and purchase stuff for you. My nonprofit, Greater Works Discipleship Ministries Incorporated, we have spent $1,500 during this Christmas season. We shopped for every single family. We led the way. We purchased $1,500 worth of toys, gifts, and different things like that for families in our communities that are in need. And so we're asking you, now that we have made our purchases and we've led the way, we're asking you to just go clean up those lists and purchase the remaining items off of there. And again, if you do that, you can have anything that you want off of our website. No matter how big or small the PDF of that teaching is, I will make sure that you get a copy of it. So Gilbert, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. All right. So with that being said, this is a Q&A tonight and everything like that. So I really want to talk to y'all. My major concern is whether you celebrate Christmas or not, there is no biblical mandate that says that you have to celebrate Christmas. If you don't want to celebrate Christmas for whatever reason, nobody is asking you to. Nobody is telling you that you should. Nobody is saying that the Bible teaches that you should celebrate Christmas. That is your conviction. It is your right to do or not to do so. Now, what I will not do, and what I think the Bible would not instruct us to do, is push our conviction as sinful upon someone else. If someone chooses to exercise their Christian liberty to celebrate Christmas, then that is their Christian liberty. And I think the thing, I try to be very selective in who I choose to stitch, who I choose to make videos on. If I think a content creator is genuinely just misspoken, or in error, I'm gentle and I try to be Christ-like in all of my videos. But it's the ones that are, how do I put it? I would say blatantly lazy with their research. Or, and you could tell that so one that I'm going to make tonight or tomorrow is one person who posts a screenshot of Got Questions, an article saying that the elf on the shelf is a monitoring spirit. I kid you not, y'all. This lady says, it's the same lady, I think her name is Katie or something like that, saying that the elf on the shelf is a monitoring spirit. So in the background of her video, where she tries to offer evidence and says, oh, elves on the shelves are monitoring spirits, she pulls up an article for Got Questions. And she explicitly says, hey, go look at this article. If you want to do a deep dive, go look at this article for Got Questions on monitoring spirits. But when y'all know what I'm going to do. Like, if you ain't seen me by now, if you post a link to an article, I'm going to rip that article apart. I'm going to scrutinize that article to death. And so I love Got Questions. I find them to be very credible. So I opened up Got Questions and I know Got Questions ain't finna be agreeing with no monitoring spirits. And sure enough, in the source she put on the screen, Got Questions says, this is not biblical. And so I'm thinking to myself, why would you intentionally mislead these people? This lady has 500,000 followers on Facebook and another 300 or 400,000 followers on TikTok. You have almost 1 million followers across your platform. Ain't no telling how many on YouTube, because I ain't did no research on it like that. Why would you post an article and say do research on it on an article you haven't read? To me, that is just blatantly disingenuous. And it's saying, what are the young people saying? That it's giving, I didn't do a bit of research on this. It's giving, I have a conviction and I'm going to talk about my conviction regardless of where the evidence leads. Why would you post an article that completely disagrees with your premise? And so it's people like that I think are misleading God's people. I don't do this to be argumentative. I really don't. I love God's word. And I love God's people and I love God. And so I refuse to allow God's people to be misled based upon bad evidence, bad scriptural interpretation, or no research being done at all, or conjecture, people just thinking up something. I'm not dealing with it. And every year, y'all see my posts every week, every day, I'm asking people, if you have something to present, show me your evidence. And what do we get? It becomes the Beyonce mute challenge. So again, I have no problem. I am not here to create an echo chamber. I am not here to just have people that are going to agree with what I believe. But if you're going to have a dissenting opinion, if you're going to have a contradictory opinion on something like this, whatever it is that you believe, be able to support it. Be able to provide evidence for what it is that you believe. And no one has been able to do that. 99% of the comments don't even try. They just say, oh, well, everybody knows that Christmas is pagan. Well, how? Everybody may have been told that, but everybody doesn't know that. And so, yes, as my good friend Sheffrin would say, source up. So if you're going to put this information out there, I'll look at it. And I think, and this is not to be egotistical at all. Please don't mistake my tone. Hear my heart. This is not to be egotistical at all, but I believe that I've created a platform, and God has given me a platform where people know if Kevin Betten Jr. says something on social media, there's going to be substantial evidence to back that up. If you know, if I post something, I am not posting conjecture, or I'm going to tell you, hey, this is what I believe, but it's not scripture. It has not been backed up with substance. But for the most part, especially if I make a video where you could tell I have pre-recorded this, oh, it's going to have some sources in there. And so at this point, along with my other friends, Alfredo Valentine, my other urban apologists out there, shout out to Inspiring Philosophy, shout out to Wes Huff, shout out to all of these individuals who are making videos and presenting the evidence and showing you primary sources that the origins of Christmas don't have anything to do with paganism. And yet and still, people will bring up Yule. They will bring up Saturnalia. They will bring up Sol Invictus. And you know what's funny? What's funny is y'all, my followers, like y'all are some dope people. I love y'all to death, because what happens then is my followers jump on there and be like, yo, he got sources. Where your sources at? Because he gonna ask you, and everything. And so I would think at this point by now, those that have followed me for a while, you know that I'm gonna ask, show me some evidence. And I would love to take a look at it. Because if I received some type of substantial evidence that Christmas had pagan origins, then I would leave it. I would not celebrate it. But the more research that I did, and I did a tremendous amount of research. In this presentation that I have here now, there are 169 slides. 169 slides. The overwhelming majority of these slides all have sources in them. I'm not going to go through this whole presentation tonight. You can see here on every one of these slides, what is there? There's sources. There's a reason for that, because I want you to be able to trust the information that is there. And for like in here, you can see teaching notes and different things like that have sources in it. So if I couldn't put the source on the screen because there's already too much information on the screen, I put the source in the comments. And I don't, one of the things that I do not do is make a determination. One of the things I do not do is make a conclusion based upon one source. You will never see me Google one source in the videos that I make. I am always trying to present 2 to 3 sources. And if I can, I try to lean towards non-Christian sources. That way people can't accuse it of bias. I'm very strategic in the way that I try to present, my presentations and everything. So I try to go to non-Christian sources. I will use atheist websites. I will use atheist scholars because what's important is truth, not the source of where that truth comes from and everything. So Dan McClellan has admitted and everything like that. So like, listen, man, I just want the truth. And if you have the truth, it's a young lady, a blessed woman of God on my post right now. And everything that I'm receiving notification. My pastor taught us in Bible study that that Christmas is pagan. Oh, really? So where did he come from? What sources did he use? The Bible. Okay, well, where? Please don't go to Jeremiah 10. Please don't go to Jeremiah 10. And at this point, and I'm really at this point trying to be charitable. But if you come on one of the posts and you use Jeremiah 10 as a defense for Christmas is pagan, you have no credibility with me. I'm not trying to sound, Lord, I ain't gonna say Lord forgive me, but I'm not trying to come across condescending. But I believe that I've made enough posts. I believe that I've made enough videos. I believe that I've shown enough evidence to prove that Jeremiah 10 has nothing to do with a Christmas tree. And I think at that point, you are telling me that you have read nothing but the King James Version. You've never read any commentaries. You have never read any other translations of Jeremiah 10 other than the King James. You are repeating what someone told you. You cannot convince me that you have studied Jeremiah 10, that you have spent more than 10 minutes in that text and came to the conclusion that Jeremiah was referencing a holiday tree that would not be invented for another 700 years. You cannot convince me that you have studied that, because your fruit is giving it away. Because that text, there's no way an intellectually honest person reads Jeremiah 10 in anything but the King James Version, and even in the King James Version, you can't tell me that you've read that text in context and you believe Jeremiah 10 is talking about a Christmas tree. So if you bring up Jeremiah 10 on a post, you automatically lose credibility with me. And that's where I go use my Tone Changer app to make sure that I do not come across as much as possible condescending, hateful, or anything like that. But it's just at that point, it's like, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say, because you're telling me you haven't done any research. You haven't. You have not read Jeremiah 10 in context. I would love to entertain some questions. I would love to entertain some clarification. I would love to have some conversations with anyone and everything. And if you're that passionate about it, I have no problem. I'll send you the link to the live and you can jump in the live together and we can discuss it on air and everything. So Tay says, I'm here to learn because I honestly don't know. Teach me the facts. What do you want to know, my brother? I'm here tonight. We got some time. So by all means, I would love to engage in any particular questions that you have. Karen, it is good to see you as well. Pastor Christopher Walton, man, no, I'm not nobody pastor. Don't do that. I do not want to be anybody. Why y'all messing with me? Veronica, I love you, dear sister, but I ain't nobody pastor. I don't want to be nobody pastor. So no, I'm too petty to be a pastor at this point. I'm too petty and everything like that. So look at all the books. Yeah, I have, listen, so let me give y'all some of my sources real quick. Let's see. All right, so these are just some of the sources that of Christmas. Christmas by William, what's his name? William Francis Dawson. This is one and everything. The Babylon Connection. This is Ralph Woodrow Wilson. This brother does a good job in debunking the stuff from Alexander Hislop. Christmas and the Pagan Myths by Thomas Robb. Let's see here. We got The Origins of the Liturgical Year by Thomas Talley. You've seen this inside my particular post and everything. Let me get David's comment off of there so everybody can see. So Origins of the Liturgical Year by Thomas Talley. The Encyclopedia of Christmas by Tanya Gulevich. This is a really good source as well. Christmas, A Candid History. I did not agree with everything that was, I read the first couple pages of this and I was like, yeah, this stuff is not as up to date as I would like, but I'm gonna resource it. And then there are other resources that I have that are on Kindle and different things like that. And then I have a matter of fact, I'm gonna show y'all. We got some time while I'm entertaining y'all question and everything like this. So this is my, as you can see here, this is my Christmas apologetics folder. All of these are primary sources, y'all. Like I don't play. All of these are primary sources. So this one's talking about. Let me blow this up. All right, Soul and everything, calculating December 25th. This is scholar T.C. Schmidt. This is a copy of the calendar of Philocalus. This is the earliest primary source for Sol Invictus. Here is the primary source for it. The calendar of Philocalus and then Christmas, A Candid History. This is the PDF of that and everything. Let's see what else we got in here. The Disposition of the Martyrs. This is the Roman primary source that the earliest primary source for Sol Invictus also tells us that Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem of Judea on December 25th. It's just absolutely annihilating source right there. Dominion, How the Christian Revolution Remade the World, another good one. St. Gregory Hippolytus in December 25th, Inventing the Christmas Tree. I mean, there's all kind of stuff in here, y'all. Macrobius, this is the primary source for Saturnalia. On the solstices and equinoxes. This is the primary source for the 4th century source for Christmas or for December 25th. Sol Invictus and the Winter, Sol Invictus and the Winter Solstice and the Origin of Christmas by scholar Steve Hymans. Tertullian, the chronography of 354, Julius Africanus's, the first Christmas tree, the legend of Semiramis. Here is the legend of There Really Is a Santa Claus, the ebook. The Origins of Christmas, y'all. So like Tammuz, here is a scholarly source for Tammuz. Like I don't make these PowerPoints just off of, not having read and not having studied. Like this last year took me hours and days and weeks of research to not only read the sources, but then put it together in an engaging way where people could do it. So this is what it's like taking a class. If you take a class when we did the Christmas class, Right now, that class is still only $50. You not only get the 160 plus page PowerPoint that we did, not to mention the stuff that BK added to it, which was dope. You're not only getting those particular things, but then you get access to all of those sources, all of those primary sources, all of those extra books. That's probably $200-300 worth of books in there that every student gets as well. So, I mean, you will never invest more in me than I will in you. That is something I tell my students all the time. You will never invest more in me. Every student that's ever taken a class with Greater Works, you have left there with several $100 worth of books for $99. Many of them $75 if they catch the early bird. So again, it ain't about making money. It's about making disciples. My man Garvin said, this is the real sorcery. All right. So Dear Sis says, I've never read that scripture right until you read it out loud. Why? No clue. Oh, yeah, you ain't been. I think you're pretty new to the platform, but I have seen your name in a couple of the posts and everything like that. And everything like that. And so, yeah, this is my dear admin, Tanika Jeremiah, is talking about a Christmas tree. They are carved. So keep playing. I'm going to block you. All right, you can get it too. So is it Troy? Oh, my man, Troy Goss. All right, man. Bless you, bro. Love you. Doing great work down there in New Orleans and everything like that as well. All right. So what is the main argument people use? People claim that Christmas is pagan. Number one, the main argument and here's the thing. Many of them don't know it, but what they're doing is regurgitating Alexander Hislop's beliefs. All of this Christmas is pagan, Easter is pagan comes from Alexander Hislop. Many people don't know that what they're doing is parroting his source or parroting his teachings, but they are. So I'll bring it up on the screen for you real quick. Excuse me. So I've showed it a couple times, but I'm always realizing that there's somebody out there that has not read and everything has not read this. So check this out. All right, my man. The individual's work most influenced the belief that Christmas and Easter has pagan roots is Hislop. He was a minister in Scotland. He writes this book called, and I have it on Kindle, The Two Babylons. So in it, he believes Roman Catholicism is nothing more than rebranded Babylonian paganism. All the holidays associated with the Catholic Church are actually Babylonian religious festivals in honor of their heathen or pagan gods. So here is the primary source for this, Alexander Hislop's own words. I copied and pasted it. How then did the Roman Catholic Church, fix on December 25th as the Christmas day? Why? Because long before the 4th century and long before the Christian era itself, a festival was celebrated among the heathen at that precise time of the year on December 25th in honor of the birth of the son, Tammuz, of the Babylonian queen of heaven, Ishtar. And in some translations or some people call it Semiramis, same deity. All right. And it may be fairly presumed that in order to conciliate the heathen, you can read it. Y'all, I don't need to read the entire slide. So again, that's his source. But again, the problem with that is there's no sources in his book, or they're bad sources. One of the things that I did, he mentions this book here. In The Two Babylons, he mentions this book here, The Ancient Egyptians. And so I told y'all, I'm a nerd, I'm a dummy, and I love truth, right? So in this book, he talks about Horus. And so what I do, I went on Amazon and I bought the book because I wanted to go to the actual source and see what Hislop was talking about. And I went to the page, I spent $30-40 just so that I can make sure that the information that I present is credible. So I wanted to go to the actual source. And in it, we find out Semiramis and Nimrod. So he believes Semiramis and Nimrod got together and had a child, which was Tammuz. But the problem is they didn't even live in the same century. They didn't live in the same century, so it's like, come on, his stuff was just bogus. And you can see here, this is a scholarly source toward the image of Tammuz. We're using scholars of these particular civilizations. So when we talk about Norse paganism, I know Norse pagan scholars who are looking at us and be like, Odin, are you serious? There's no way in the world that Santa Claus comes from the legend of Odin and different things. But people will look this information right in the face and be like, nuh-uh, it's still pagan. And I'm like, how? Is cognitive dissonance really whooping us like that, but people will straight up look at this. So this is the main reason that many people believe it is. This is where you get the names Nimrod and Tammuz or Mithras. People are repeating stuff that they've heard, but they have not researched it. Or here's the bigger thing. They'll use AI. And so they'll go Google something and AI will tell you, oh, yes, Tammuz's birthday was on December 25th. But what you don't know when you are using AI is what source are they pulling from? And a lot of times in the top right-hand corner, AI will tell you what sources it's using. And it's using bad sources. And so AI will be using people's websites. And guess who they're quoting? Alexander Hislop. But AI isn't analyzing those sources to determine whether they're true. AI is just going to tell you what the source says. It is not going to think for you to determine whether that source is correct. So posting something from artificial intelligence is not intelligent. It's not. And so you can tell when people lead with AI and saying, why is Christmas pagan? AI is going to search digitally and look for articles that explain why Christmas is pagan. AI is not looking to argue with you. It is going to go look for sources that agree with the premise that you typed in the search box. And so AI is not going to reason. It is not going to think for you. It's just going to search for you. But you don't know, we don't know a lot of times where AI is pulling from. So we should not utilize AI to substantiate an argument. It's a bad source because you don't know where it's pulling from. So again, using websites, the first thing I'm gonna do when you send me a website is I'm gonna go look at that website and find out, where did that website get its sources from? Who wrote this article? Do they have any credentials in Norse paganism? Do they have any credentials to talk about Tammuz? Do they know anything about Babylonian civilization? What are their credentials to be able to write as an authority on this particular subject? And 99.9% of people are not posting sources that have any type of substantial person or person that has substantial education to write on these particular subjects. And so again, AI is not going to think for you. It's not going to reason for you. It is just a research assistant, but you still have the responsibility of looking at that research and then researching the research. I don't care what. Now, I will use AI sometimes, but I'm going to ask AI, where's your source from? And then I'm always fact checking what I find. So long-winded preacher answer to that question. But yeah. So I'm sure now Sheffrin, she said, I'm sure Hosea did want to marry. I don't know where that one came from, but nevertheless, Veronica said, I'm going to buy. See, you don't have to. If you go and purchase the course on my website for $50, you get all of the research and the sources. So you can go spend $100 on books on Amazon, or you can spend $50 on greaterworksdiscipleship.thinkific.com and register for the course, and you get several $100s worth of books plus a PowerPoint that has already done the research for you, but even fact check me. Bottom line. So simple question. Was Jesus born on the 25th of December? We don't know. I don't think so, but most likely not. But again, the question that, and it's not to say, Tay, that your question doesn't matter, but the question that is more important is, why did the church begin the celebration of the incarnation, the birth and incarnation of Jesus on the 25th of December? That is what matters. So, and again, when we go through the factual evidence, the sources in there, the early church was attempting to calculate when the birth of the Messiah was, because they believed that according to their belief system now in the Eastern and Western Church, the date of the death of the Messiah would also correspond with the date of the conception of the Messiah. So they believed that if they knew the date that Jesus died, that based upon their belief system, that would also match the date of his conception. So they dated the date of his death to the Passover on March 25th. And so as a result of that being identified as the date of his death, according to their belief system, he was conceived on the same date, March 25th. 9 months later is December 25th. It doesn't matter whether it was right or not. Here's proof. Because Christmas is not a birthday celebration. The Jews did not celebrate birthdays. They did not celebrate birthdays. So the early church would have never been concerned with the date of Jesus's coming. They would have been concerned with the event of Jesus's coming. Let me soapbox for a second. Do we really think that this Jewish audience who was waiting on the Messiah, waiting on the Christ, that they actually cared about the day that he came? Absolutely not. Here's proof. When the wise men came from what we believe is Persia and traveled several hundred miles to come, don't look at what we see in the nativity scenes. Jesus was about 2 years old when he came. How do we know? They traveled hundreds of miles to come and be with the child, traveling several hundred miles following a star. Stars are only visible at night. So they're traveling hundreds of miles by camel or, and stuff like, or by horse by night when they can see the star. By the time they get to Bethlehem, Jesus is about 2 years old, because Herod, what does he say in his decree? I'm going to ask you to kill all of the babies that are 2 years and under. So they weren't concerned about the date. They were concerned about the fact that the Messiah has been born. So Christmas has never been a birthday celebration. It is a celebration of the incarnation, the event of Jesus Christ coming into the earth. So again, no, I don't believe that their calculation was right, but for them, it didn't matter about the actual date, because again, they didn't celebrate birthdays. What mattered was the fact that he actually came. And so they celebrated on that date because of that. And all 10 sources that are in this presentation, all 10 sources testify to that particular fact. All right. So again, I grant to anybody that they didn't celebrate birthdays. And again, there's 10 primary sources. So you gotta look at these sources and ask yourself, all of these sources, primary sources, are saying the same exact thing. You got to deal with that. We got to deal with that. Not one person the entire month of December has commented on any of those sources. Not one. Because they know that if you actually look at the research, it's undeniable. It's undeniable. Period, point blank. All right. So let me see what else we got here. This is a good conversation. Just answered that question, Barry. Thank you so much for rocking with us. Today, a Christian said to me, he follows the word. After I told him of Christmas not having pagan origins, he said, if it's not in the book, then he won't celebrate it. Then make sure that he's not celebrating his birthday. Make sure that he does not celebrate his children's birthday. Make sure that he does not celebrate the anniversary of him and his spouse if he is married. So again, if we're going to make these arguments, as the young people would say, keep that same energy. All right. If you're going to say that you were not going to celebrate anything that has to do with paganism, then I hope to God that you are not having Amazon delivering any of your packages this year, because the symbol from Amazon comes directly from paganism. I hope to God that there is not one pair of Nikes inside your closet, because the symbol of Nike comes from Roman paganism. I hope to God that you are not ordering from Starbucks, because the symbol on Starbucks comes from paganism. I hope to God that you don't eat a bowl of cereal and that you don't serve your kids cereal, because Ceres was a god in the Roman pantheon. And that is where we get the name cereal from. I hope to God you're not using our calendar, because every day of the week is named after a pagan god. Every month is named after a pagan god. Every planet is named after a pagan god. We cannot escape the influence of paganism in this world. So do you really want to be consistent with that? And people don't. They want a soapbox and have an air of self-righteousness and legalism, but they don't want to be honest with the research, because if you want to be honest with the research and you have to keep the energy on that same argument, none of them are going to do that. I guarantee you they got Nikes. I guarantee you they subscribe to Amazon. I guarantee you they do. So again, let's be honest with ourselves. All right. So again, Sheffrin's in the class. She's one of our volunteers. She's been in almost every class we've done. And again, so, and again, we look at Hanukkah and Purim. Nobody has commented on that all month long. Hanukkah was not commanded by God. It was not commanded by God. It was not instituted by God. Purim was not instituted by God. Hanukkah and Purim are man-made holidays. I'm gonna say that again. Hanukkah and Purim are man-made holidays. All right. There's nothing that says that people should celebrate them. But yet and still, we find Jesus celebrating Hanukkah. All right, you don't believe me? Boom, there it is. All right, so Hanukkah comes from Second Maccabees. All right, and it talks about Judas Maccabeus and the men that were with him, and it says, and they ordained, man-made, they ordained by a common statute and decree that all the nation of the Jews should keep those days every year. So every year they ordained a holiday that is not in the Bible. Second Maccabees is not in the Protestant Bible. It is part of the Apocrypha. This is not an inspired text. And in John 10, we see Jesus in the temple during the festival of dedication. There's no other reason he would have been in Jerusalem at that time. That's like saying, yeah, you're inside the church on Christmas Day, and everything like that, but you're not celebrating Christmas. It's like, come on, man. Like, let's be honest. Let's be intellectually honest. All right. So Purim, not prescribed by God. Is not the name of God is not even found in the book of Esther. All right. Mordecai ordered them to celebrate the 14th and 15th days of the month of Adar every year, like Christmas, because those days the Jews gained relief from their enemies. God did not tell them to celebrate Purim. So again, keep that same energy when it comes to these sources. But nobody has commented on that because the information is undeniable. You can argue with me all day, but when people are brought sources and evidence that counteracts their belief systems, cognitive dissonance kicks in and they want to still, and I get it. Lord knows I get it. It is difficult. Please hear my heart. I know that it is difficult. If you have believed in that Christmas pagan, your pastor who you love, who you believe, who is, I believe, a man of God, has told you that Christmas is pagan, and now you are confronted with empirical evidence that says that what you believe is wrong. It is difficult to let go of that longly held belief. It is difficult to face the fact that you may have taught wrong. It is difficult to face the fact that you may have been taught wrong by somebody that you love and trust. But if we're going to be disciples of Jesus Christ, he says that we should love. The first and greatest commandment is that we should love the Lord our God with all of our heart, our soul, and all of our mind. And loving the Lord with our mind means using the intellectual capacities that he has given us to reason and be intellectually honest with new information. And the information is overwhelming, it is empirical, it is substantial, and it is undeniable. So again, there are no sources for Yule. There's no primary sources for that. There's no primary sources that say that Odin is the source from where we get Santa Claus. This stuff has to be proven. And again, there is they do not present evidence. So he says, go get Book of Pagan Days. What is that going to, I'm not sure which framework you're arguing from, my brother. But if you got information, I will be more than happy to look at it. And so this is one of the things that I hate that people say, or I dislike. I want to be charitable. Please forgive me. One of the things I dislike is when people say, go do your own research. Why? If you have truth that could be impactful for somebody, why wouldn't you share it? You will never see me tell people, go do your own research. I'm going to show you my research because I care about your soul and I care about truth. So I'm not going to tell you, go do your research. That's irresponsible of me as a teacher, as a person who operates in that ministry gift. I'm not going to tell you, go do your own research. If the Lord has given me the ability, the gift, the talents, and the resources to have done the research for you, I'm going to be responsible enough to show you the research. People tell you, go do your own research when they have not done research. It's a cop-out. It's a cop-out because people that have research are more than willing to share it. I ain't done no research. I'm just going to tell, I'm just cap. I'm going to just tell you straight up, where my balloon at? I'm going to blow the balloon up and you're going to be in one of my videos. So, and everything. Yeah, I don't want to be nobody pastor. Ask me why. It just, I would much rather be a number 2 than a number 1. I don't want to do that. The Lord going to have to call me to be a pastor. You are more than welcome. I love you. and everything like that, by all means. New Zealand, God bless you. Thank you so much. In our last class, in our Christmas class, we had a sister. She blessed my ever-loving soul. We had a sister from Nigeria in our class. And in Nigeria, we started class at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It was 1 a.m. And when I tell y'all, she was on time and stayed for not only the duration of the class, but the after party every night, and was participating from 1 to 4 a.m. because she wanted the knowledge, because she wanted the information. She was hungry. And you better believe, not only did we allow her access into that class, we was giving her additional gifts and everything like that. That's a person that's hungry. And she just blessed. We've had people from several countries, Trinidad, different things like that, taking classes. So, yeah. What up, Chris? So Chris, Yolanda should have reached out to you today, man. We're talking about planning the conference. I need to get with y'all and everything like that. So he does have Nikes. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Old pagan Nike shoes and everything like that. So, and everything like that. So Marilyn, I love you. But again, when you produce a source, dear sister, I will look at it, but you're not phasing me. That means absolutely nothing to me. All right. So what is Saturnalia? I'm so glad you asked, because I'm dropping a video on Saturnalia tomorrow. But because I'm live, let's go ahead and do it right now, right? All right. So let's go ahead and dig into Saturnalia. All right. Let's go here. I got so many slides. All right. Is that Sol Invictus? Pagan gods. Let me back up. Let's talk about Saturnalia. And if you have questions, family, by all means, let me know. If you want to come up and jump on, let me know. All right. I'll send you the link because we ain't scared. All right. So the Saturnalia. All right. And again, I used a non-Christian source and everything like that as well. So the Saturnalia was an enduring Roman festival dedicated to the agricultural god Saturn that was held from the 17th to the 23rd of December. It's not on the 25th. It never was. All right. Each year during the winter solstice. All right. So you can read the slide. All right. Next, here, scholarly sources. Here's one of them. All right. Tanya Gulevich's. I got the actual book. I didn't just get this off the internet. All right. Lucian, a 2nd century Greco-Roman writer, drew up a set of rules summarizing proper conduct during Saturnalia. All right. And what happens during Saturnalia? All men were equal, slave and free, rich and poor with one another. This was temporary equality. So if you were high social status during Saturnalia, you had to serve the people who were typically during the year that were serving you. All right. Every man, all right, has a chance to make, every man shall take his place, has a chance made direct. Dignities and birth and wealth give no precedence. There's no more social inequality. All shall be served with the same wine. Every man's portion of meat shall be alike. Going on. Let's keep going. The primary source that we have for Saturnalia is the primary source. This is where we get all of our information about Saturnalia. Comes from Macrobius's his book. All right. So again, and when did this come from? The 5th century. The 5th century. Now, again, look at this timeline I created. It took me a long time to do this to y'all, but this is how much I care about visual presentation. If Macrobius, the original primary source for Saturnalia, isn't until the 5th century, which would be off the screen here, look how many sources we have prior to Saturnalia. So if Tertullian, Hippolytus, Clement, the chronography of 354, the 4th century solstices on solstices and equinoxes, St. Gregory of Chrysostom, Augustine, the Donatuses, and Julius Africanus all predate the original source for Saturnalia. Who copied who? Who copied who? Let's be honest. All right. So again, let's look at what he says in here. Here it is from the primary source. Our ancestors restricted the Saturnalia to a single day, the 14th before the calends of January. All right. The calends is in Roman reckoning of time. It's the first day of the month. So 14 days before the first of the month goes back to the 17th. All right. 14 to the calendar of January. After Gaius Caesar had added 2 days to December, the day on which the festival was held became the 16th before the calends of January. And so you can see the festival then came to be regarded as lasting for more days than one. And yet, in fact, among the men of old time, there were some that supposed the Saturnalia lasted for 7 days. But one can infer then from all that has been said that the Saturnalia lasted but 1 day and was held only on the 14th day before the calends of January. That is not December 25th. All right. So again, the primary source for Saturnalia telling you it was not on and never was on the 25th of December. So Tanya Gulevich, what did she say? The Roman gods honored Saturn as the patron of agriculture and civilized life. They held this festival on the end of the autumn sowing season when cold weather arrived. In the early years of the Roman Republic, Saturnalia took place on December 17th, 14 days before the calends, or the first of the month. At the close of the first century, the celebration stretched into a full week ending around December 23rd. It was never on December 25th. It was never on there. Primary sources. So again, that should put to bed. Now, I guarantee you, you will still have people saying, well, in Saturnalia, they gave gifts and everything like that. Well, let's look at that, man. Let's do a little bit more work. We still got a little bit to go. Let's go, right? So Tertullian of Carthage, this is in circa 203 to 11, admonishes Christians not to partake in the Saturnalia or the gift giving at the end, the new year or midwinter, or idols' birthday. So he's telling you don't celebrate idols' birthday. One of the early church fathers is telling you don't celebrate birthdays. So what makes us think that the early, with writings like this, that they would then turn around and celebrate the birthday of Sol Invictus and then make that the birthday of, or the birth celebration of Jesus? Again, all right. So the Minervalia are as much Minerva's. Saturnalia belongs to Saturn's. New Year's gifts likewise must be caught at the Septimonium, and all the presents of midwinter, the feast of dearest kinsmanship, all of these holidays and holy days. The same thing takes place on an idol's birthday. Every pomp of the devil is frequented. Who will think that these things are befitting to a Christian master? So he's telling Christians, we're not taking part in any of these days that belong to Saturn, that belong to Minerva, or none of this. So with sources like this, early church fathers, African church fathers, he is called Tertullian of Carthage. Carthage was one of the 4 major hubs of Christianity in the first several hundred years of the church. You had Antioch, where they were first called Christians, Jerusalem, the founding place of Christianity, and then you had Carthage and Alexandria. Alexandria is where interpretation is done. Alexandria is where exegesis is done. Alexandria is where the world's first seminary was. Alexandria is where the world's first university was, where the world's largest library is. All of that is in Alexandria. Carthage is where early councils took place. How do you think they discovered how to run the Council of Nicaea? Did you know that there were 4 synods done in Carthage, Africa, prior to the Council of Nicaea that dealt with issues like the Trinity? So again, don't tell me that Christianity is a white man's religion and was given to us in slavery, when in Africa, you have the world's first seminary, the world's largest library. You've got Tertullian of Carthage. You've got Augustine of Hippo. You've got Clement of Alexandria. You've got all of these Black scholars that came from the catechetical school in Alexandria. And one of them is telling you in a source, we don't participate in the celebrations of Roman gods, but yet you got people on Beyonce's internet saying that the church was taking place in these celebrations. It don't make sense. Make it make sense. You cannot come to those conclusions when you are honest with the sources. These are primary sources. This is not an internet article. Not only that, let's go a little bit more, right? So Rome and Christian persecution. Let's go. Let's do a little teaching. So from earliest years, from 193 to 211, you've got this joker here, Septimius Severus. He is promoting worship of the unconquered sun and saying all gods are accepted as long as they acknowledge the Son that reigned above all. But what? Jews and Christians ain't getting with that. So under penalty of death, conversion to Judaism and Christianity was outlawed. If Christians were worshiping Sol Invictus, why would he persecute them? Can we be honest? Tag somebody that believed Christmas is pagan and tell them. If Christians were celebrating Sol Invictus, why would Septimius Severus persecute them and threaten to put them to death? If Jesus's birthday was in the celebration of Sol Invictus, why would he be persecuting Christians? Make it make sense. It don't make sense. You have martyrs like Perpetua and Felicity who were martyred in these colosseums and in these celebrations and these persecutions of Christians. So again, you got to read these stories. I have the primary source for this particular martyrdom. People were dying because they refused to take place or take part in the worship of these Roman pantheon of gods. In AD 247, let's keep going down the timeline, was the 1000th birthday of the city of Rome. Citizens gathered in the streets for 3 days and 3 nights. Because the celebrations were focused on Roman gods and goddesses, Christians ain't participating. These the same Christians y'all are saying are participating in worshiping Saturnalia and Odin and Sol Invictus, but in 247, they're like, no. So what happens after the celebration? A plague comes and people begin dying. So what do the Romans do? Oh, it's the Christians' fault. Why? Because they would not worship our Roman pantheon of gods. So they're being persecuted, being martyred, being tortured because they refuse to worship the Roman pantheon of gods. But then you're going to turn around and tell me that these same Christians are going to model after Odin, after Saturnalia, after Sol Invictus, but they're dying for this? Make it make sense. It don't. The Decian persecution. So Tertullian is quoted as saying, the blood of the martyrs is like seed in the ground. For the more they kill us, the more Christianity grew. People began to admire Christians because they stood tall in the face of persecution. They still refused to worship any god but Yahweh. And so Decius says, we're not going to kill Christians anymore. We're going to make them apostatize. We're going to make them publicly deny their faith. Apostasy is greater than martyrdom. And so now, Christians, we're going to make you get libeluses. We're going to make you sign statements saying that you publicly deny your faith in Jesus Christ. So again, Eusebius is quoted in this. They leveled churches to the ground, destroyed churches by fire. Why would they be persecuting Christians and destroying their churches if they were worshiping Sol Invictus? Why would they be doing that if they were participating in Saturnalia? Make it make sense. Again, so such a first edict against us, commanding that all the rulers of the churches in every place be first thrown into the prison and afterwards by every artifice be compelled to sacrifice. Does that sound like people to you that would then turn around and worship Sol Invictus? Does this sound like people that would turn around and then worship Odin? Does this sound like people that would take the gift giving that did take place in Saturnalia and then begin to develop Christian customs based off the same people that are persecuting them, that are killing them, that are torturing them? Make it make sense. It don't make sense. So again, all of this, Galerius, I mean, we could go on, y'all. I walk the dog on them with this in class. It's nonsensical to believe that these same Christians withstanding persecution from the Roman Empire because of their faith are at the same time abandoning their faith to participate in or copy the festivals and celebrations of the pagan god Saturn. Why would I copy the celebrations of the people that are killing us? Why would I copy the celebrations of the people that are torturing us? Why would I copy the celebrations of the Roman gods that are persecuting us? It don't make sense. And the sources don't back it up. So I love you, but I don't care what your pastor told you. If it doesn't agree with the evidence, we have to be honest with ourselves and worship the Lord with our mind and say that maybe my pastor was wrong. Maybe he was in error. Doesn't mean that he's not a man of God. Doesn't mean that he doesn't know Jesus. Doesn't mean that he's not going to heaven. Doesn't mean that he can't teach the Bible. But it does mean that he might have had a mistake. I've had them. I'm not above, correction and everything. So again, family, we got to be honest with these questions. We got to be honest with it. So give me some more questions. If I'm reading y'all book, I'm just asking y'all to read my sources. So give me some reciprocity. All right. Where does Saint Nick come from? Saint Nicholas comes from Saint Nicholas, and his name, Saint Nicholas was a G. When I tell y'all Saint Nicholas was a gangster and was so passionate about Christianity, it don't make no sense. Let me show y'all, man. Where are my slides on good old Saint Nick? Saint Nick was at the Council of Nicaea and the whole nine. People don't know. But we're gonna tell them. All right. I'm gonna just give y'all a few slides. I ain't giving y'all everything. Because y'all jokers be screenshotting and all the other good stuff. Invest in the slides. Be a blessing. All right. So, all right, check it out. All right, Saint Nick, real person, born in 270 AD in present day Turkey. All right. He had rich parents. When they died from a plague, they left him a substantial inheritance. All right. What does Saint Nick do? Secret gift giving. Nicholas is remembered. There was a family had gone bankrupt. His daughter's about to be sold into prostitution. He didn't have money for the dowry. So what happens? Nicholas hears about this dilemma, throws a bag of gold into the oldest daughter, stops her from being sold into slavery, stops her from being sold into prostitution. What happens? This is again the father's prayer of those daughters. He prays like, Lord, hey, whoever this is doing all this wonderful gift giving in secret, Lord, please let me be a blessing to this person. All right. I'm not going to take the time to read the whole thing. All right. So when Nicholas throws in another bag to save the third daughter, he's giving away his riches to be a blessing to someone else. All I'm asking y'all to do is go bless some people and buy some gifts off a Christmas giveaway. All right. Excuse me. All right. So one of the bags of gold lands in one of the stockings. But stockings are pagan, right? All right. Nicholas wanted the glory to go to God alone. So he does not, it makes the father swear, I'm not going to, let you know where this stuff comes. Later on, he becomes a bishop against his will and everything like that. He pastors in the midst of all of that Roman persecution I just told y'all about. That's when St. Nicholas was going on. You a real Christian if you existed during the 4th century. That's when Christians were really being the 3rd and 4th centuries, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th centuries. That's when Christians was really enduring persecution. St. Nicholas was thrown into prison, tortured, and everything for his faith. And you mean to tell me you think this came from Odin? Are you serious? Come on. All right. So again, this dude was a G. St. Nicholas was not, he was about that life, and everything. And everything. At this time, Constantine comes in. Constantine is the first time the church goes from persecuted to preferred. All right. The church is no longer persecuted for their faith. They're now preferred. All right. Did you know that the X in Xmas actually comes from this? Oh, y'all thought y'all was being slick and I'm not taking part in Christmas. Christmas is pagan. You don't even know that when you type in Xmas, what you're really doing is giving the sign of the Shiro. The Shiro was the sign that St. Nicholas, when he had the vision, he had them paint or chalk this particular symbol on their shields. It's the Shiro. All right. The X is the Shi, P is the Rho. It is the name or abbreviation for Christ. So the X, when you sign in it, the Shiro was shortened to Shi. In 1390, it was called the Cross Christ, meaning the cross of Christ. It evolves to 1475, being called Christ's Cross, going to crisscross. And so the X was also a form of a written oath before God we use when signing one's name in a document. Y'all didn't know that. Did you know the X, when you sign on a long line, that X, you are putting an oath there before God. That's where the origin of that came from. Tell me that's not bars. So people out there thinking that they're putting Xmas in there to take Christ out of Christmas, all you're really doing is putting Christ in Christmas and you don't even really know. So again, XOXO, all of this comes from the Shiro. So again, St. Nicholas was, according to this list here, he was one of the bishops at the Council of Nicaea. He got so much prophetic zeal, he slaps Arius in the face, according to a 15th century source. Again, I'm being honest. According to a 15th century source, do we know for sure? No. But according to a 15th century source, he slaps Arius in the face and everything like that. So again, last words of Nicholas in 343 AD, in thee, O Lord, do I put my trust. So what happens? Stories of his life and his generosity, his passion, many legends of the miracles regarding him, but it was tradition of secret gift giving in his honor on his death that became the most popular. That's where we get Santa Claus. That is what the early church started doing as a result of St. Nicholas. All right. So again, I go into greater detail and everything in this and all this other good stuff and how his name, the first Noel, all this other good stuff. I go into great detail about this and everything like that more in the slides. So if you want more information, you really want to take a deep dive, pull up the sources, go check them out. I did. You think I took a book at its word? No, I looked at what the book said and then said, hey, let me go research this stuff for myself. Boom, there it is. All right. So back to basics. What is pagan? Why are so many people cherry picking pagan in their life? And yeah, there you go. So again, you know, and everything like that. So Dwayne, I'm not sure what you mean by link to what, my brother? Link to what? Yeah, you should have seen Christian's face when I told him that Saint Nick was real. You know, and again, if you don't want to celebrate Christmas, I'm not telling you to go tell your kids Santa Claus is real. It developed into folklore. And so here's one of the things I always tell people. If it's got to be in the Bible and everything like that, you know, we see a very easy example of something that has a very absolutely 100% biblical origin that has been bastardized, abused, and by folklore and secular culture. The rainbow. The rainbow was instituted as a sign of the covenant between God and humanity that he would never destroy the earth by flood again. And so we know where the rainbow comes from. Where do we see the rainbow today, saints and friends? Where do we see the rainbow today? With the LGBTQ community. Now, should we stop celebrating the covenant that God made with his people because someone took an originally biblical thing and then made it into something else? No, because we understand that the origin of it, they don't have the authority to take away the significance of it because in secular culture has decided that they want it to mean something else. Likewise, I don't care what secular culture does with the resurrection. I don't care if they want to put Easter bunnies and different things according to it. They don't have the authority to redefine what Easter is actually about, which is a German word for the resurrection. Ask me for the source, because you know I got it. You know I got it. So again, they don't have the authority unless you let them to redefine what the origin of something is. Can we be honest and say that folklore and tradition and secular culture has influenced these celebrations? Absolutely. Nobody's arguing that. But to say that it is pagan from the origin, you got to show me some proof. Or you're gonna get the balloons, you know. So you know, again, James, I appreciate it. Yeah, deep dive into it. Deep dive into it. And everything like that. So Barry, teaching is such a blessing. We mean no instruction like this than just emotion. Absolutely. Oh, send the link. All right. So I'm letting you know now, Dwayne. I love you. As long as you don't come up here with no foolishness, you are more than welcome to join in and everything like that. But we're gonna be respectful. I guarantee you, I'm gonna respect you and everything like that. And we'll just do that. I can take you off screen with me. So, but by all means, anybody else have any questions? Anybody else have any questions? You want elaboration or anything like that? Clarification on something? I'm here for you. I'm more than happy to share with you what I have learned. Fact check it. I'm not asking you to take me at your word. But as Christians, I believe that we, particularly those of us who are in leadership, pastoral positions, I believe that we have a solemn responsibility. I was so disappointed with that pastor that I stitched in the video today, y'all. I was so disappointed because the amount of misinformation he shared, the amount of misinformation that he shared, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. And I really, so again, I tried to reach out. I don't think this is a Matthew 18 situation. I just wanted to reach out for integrity. And I, comment on his page. Hey, sir, here's my research. Here's my sources and everything like that. I'm asking you to reconsider this. I even made sure AI helped me change my tone to make sure that I didn't come across condescending or respectful or disrespectful. And he sends me a link to real estate book. And it's like, bro, you have multiple people on your page. None of this stuff is verified. Are you serious? Tammuz, being born on December. There's no chronological birth date for Tammuz in any scholarly source. So why would you get in front of a whole congregation of God's people and tell them stuff you have not researched? Let me tell y'all something about myself, right? The thing and all the personality tests and everything that they give me, they tell me that that drives me as a teacher is incompetence. And I'm being very transparent. It is the possibility that I could stand before God's people and be wrong in something that I'm teaching. It literally frightens me. It literally frightens me. And so I will study. If I got to preach from James 1, I'm going to study the whole book. I'm going to know the who, what, when, where, and why. I'm going to know all of these things before I stand before God's people, because I want to make sure that the information that I'm presenting is accurate, because I have a sacred responsibility when I stand behind the sacred desk. And I want to make sure that I represent God well, and that I represent his word well. And so I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm chasing after truth wherever it may lead. You know, and everything like that. Dwayne, bless you, bro.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Lessons, man. I'm doing good. How about yourself? Thank you for joining.
I'm blessed.
Good stuff, man. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. You're about to make a statement.
No, I was just gonna say thank you for coming on, you know, and everything like that. Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself before we dig in, if you want.
Oh man, I'm from North Carolina, man.
Okay.
I'm a minister myself.
Oh, you are? Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, blessed to see you, man. All right, what would you like to discuss?
So I'm saying, as far as biblically, right? From a biblical standpoint, these things, we know that the Bible, or what we would call the Bible, was the text that we have today was before the 4th century and all that, right?
I would not agree with that. When is your understanding of when the Bible was actually canonized or compiled as a single document?
Well, I know when it was compiled. I'm just saying, like, as far as the what we have today, it existed before what we call a century, correct?
Yeah, and you mean like the manuscripts and everything?
The manuscript, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Without question.
Okay, so with the manuscripts, us as believers, so do you celebrate any of the holy days?
Absolutely not.
Okay, why is that, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, sure. Great question. I don't celebrate the holy days, one, because in Leviticus 23, they were given to the Israelites. I'm not an Israelite. And from my understanding of the scriptures, all of the days of the feast of Leviticus 23, all of them pointed to the person and work of Jesus Christ. And so each one of them is fulfilling a particular thing. So, for instance, the Feast of Tabernacles, people are living outside for 7 days to symbolize what happened during the Exodus, to be a reminder of God's people, of Yahweh's faithfulness in bringing them through the Exodus, where their shoes and clothes don't wear out. He feeds them with manna, with water from the rock, et cetera, et cetera. So it's to remind them. The essence of the feast is to remind them of what Yahweh has done. Now we are the tabernacle of Jesus, of the Holy Spirit. And so all of these, we could go, literally one by one. All of them, according to my understanding of scripture, find their fulfillment in the person and work of Jesus Christ. And I'll say this and land the plane. If a person chooses to participate in a particular feast, I have absolutely no problem with that. If they want to do that, that's fine. But I don't find any biblical precedent or commandment for New Testament Christians to continue celebrating feasts, particularly Gentile Christians, to celebrate feasts that were given specifically to the Israelites. I simply don't find any biblical justification for that, particularly considering Colossians 2:16 and 17 and the teachings of Paul throughout Galatians and basically practically the entire New Testament.
Well, even with like Paul, he kept those feasts. He kept the feasts, right? The holy days, right?
No, sir. I don't find any evidence in the New Testament from my study of it that Paul was keeping the New Testament feast as a mandate. Now, I know that there are some people that will bring up when Paul says, I must go to Jerusalem. I'm not exactly the right off the top of my head where it is. But when I've done the research on that, it was talking about him fulfilling a Nazirite vow. And many times we'll see Paul throughout the book of Acts, because he is an apostle to the Gentiles, he is going into, you'll find him going into the different synagogues and different places like that in order to evangelize the Jewish people and different things that were in there. But as far as a mandated feast, under any mandate, I don't see Paul teaching that or observing it in a mandatory sense in the way that a Jewish person would have in the first century.
Okay, so in 1 Corinthians chapter 5.
All right, let's go there.
1 Corinthians chapter 5, Paul makes a statement. And we all know that, with the majority of the audience know. I don't know who don't know specifically, but Paul was an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. Paul was
Agreed.
he was sent to the Jews and the Gentiles as well. He was sent to both in the book of Acts. So we read in 1 Corinthians 5.
Mm-hmm.
It tells us, so we read it, we can go down to start at verse 1, but it talks about let us keep the feast. What feast was he talking about?
So what's important is what context is this? What is the context of 1 Corinthians chapter 5?
What it starts off talking about a sin that is happening in the church, where somebody's sleeping with their father. That's what it's talking about. But it's also talking about. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So would you agree that if we're going to interpret where I believe you're going is verse 7, would you agree that we have to interpret what Paul is saying in light of the context of what he is saying in the rest of the chapter, that we cannot isolate that verse?
Well, I'm not isolating it. I understand what it meant. I just gave you the understanding as far as with the first verse, talking about sleeping with a man sleeping with his father's wife.
Okay.
We understand that. That is a law that's supposed to be kept unto this day. You agree?
Of course.
Okay, that's a law that we're supposed to keep about in the Old Testament, where it talks about you're not supposed to sleep with your father's spouse and your mother's spouse as far as a woman. That's what it's talking about. That was going on in the Church of Corinth. Now, when you're talking about as far as when you're purging out these things, the reason why you're purging out these things is because it's the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We know you physically had to take the leaven out of the bread, right?
Yes.
Now it's talking about the spirit, but it's also talking about a day too, because it goes into the Passover.
So let me ask you this then. How is Paul utilizing the Feast of Unleavened Bread within the context? Reconcile that for me with the context of this particular chapter.
Because it said, purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, because they're the first fruits of Christ. You are unleavened, for even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. Then verse 8, therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven. Can't do it up under the old covenant, up under Moses anymore, because we follow Christ. Neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So when you're keeping these feast days, you have to do it up under Christ now, not up under Moses.
I would disagree with your interpretation of the text, and I think just a honest reading of the text indicates exactly what Paul is saying. In light of the sexual immorality that was going on in the church, Paul is saying, hey, the essence of keeping the feast is not the actual feast itself. It's not the event itself, because he's saying here, even Christ, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. So he's saying, let us keep the feast, not with the actual elements and different things like that, but with the unleavened bread, not actual unleavened bread, but the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. What he is saying is the essence of the feast is fulfilled in the same way as you accurately describe that they would take the leaven out of the bread during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Paul is saying here in the same way that they removed the member that was operating in sexual immorality from the church. Paul is drawing a parallel. The same way that you remove the leaven to stop the bread from rising, you remove the leaven from the bread, you remove that member from the church. So what he is saying is you are keeping the feast, but you're doing it in a spiritual sense by removing that brother that is operating in sin from the church. The context is excommunication. And this is just my belief, is that it would be a mischaracterization and misinterpretation of the text to make it seem as if Paul is telling them to keep the actual feast, when that has nothing to do with the context of what is being discussed here in 1 Corinthians 5.
Well, in the scripture, there's nowhere where Paul is going. When Paul is going to teach Gentiles, or Israelites that had a Gentile state of mind, he's not telling them not to keep holy days.
So I would disagree with that based upon Colossians 2, 16 and 17, where matter of fact, yeah, we can
Read
just
verse 8.
I just did. I literally just
I'm saying read in Colossians.
Let's go. All right. So beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, and after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. For in him dwelleth all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. Is there a point that you want to make from that text?
Well, he said, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the traditions of men. What are some traditions of men that we follow today?
That's not, it doesn't, let me be sure. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do then first. Let me finish. You asked me a question, so we're operating respectfully, right? What you're what's happening here is we're trying to automatically go to what we would believe the text would mean today in 2024 without first examining what did it mean to the church in Colossus. We have not even begun the discussion of what this meant to the original audience, but we're automatically trying to apply it to what we think it means today. But the important in operating in hermeneutics, what we first have to understand is who was Paul talking to when he's talking about this? He's not talking about the philosophy that existing in 2024. There is no person in the church in Corinth that would have taken Paul's words to mean something that's going to happen 2,000 years later. He would be discussing something that would be going on in the church in Colossus that is happening there. So in order to be good theologians, good disciples of Jesus Christ, we have to first ask ourselves, what was Paul saying to the church of Colossus? What was going on with philosophy and vain deceit in the tradition of men that was impacting that church at that particular time? Do you know the answer to that?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I just said today, but we can go back to what was going on back then. They were dealing with paganism.
What brings you to that conclusion?
Because
let me ask a more direct question. When Paul is saying this here in verse 8, what is the context and the background and occasion of why he is addressing this to this particular church in Colossus? Do you know why he wrote that letter?
These are people that are joining the church. They're coming out of paganism and they're repenting and coming out of their wicked ways. They are putting down. They are putting down the things that the Most High don't want them to do. That's why Paul is going around teaching them, because the things that the Gentiles sacrifice to, they sacrifice to devils.
What I'm asking you, dear brother, is where are you getting that from the text?
The reason why I'm saying that is because when you read Paul's mission, his mission is to bring people back to the Most High God. The Most High God created all people. Of course, all people didn't get. You made a statement earlier about the covenant, correct? Earlier about the Israelites getting it. It was also some Gentiles amongst these Israelites that had to follow certain things. They could not do what they wanted to do when they was doing in Egypt. That came to mixed multitude. So this covenant is being extended, because I can go read in Deuteronomy where the Gentiles had to follow the same covenant. So now, go ahead.
No. So you're skipping back to Deuteronomy. I'm asking you about the context of Colossians. I'm gonna ask you again, very directly. What specific thing was going on in the church of Colossus that caused Paul to write this letter?
I'm giving it straightforward to you. He was getting people to convert, and when they came into the church, they could not do the same thing they was used to doing as far as paganism.
And what I'm asking you directly is, where in the text do you gain that understanding from? So I'm not asking you what you believe. I'm asking you to make an argument from the text where say, hey, here in verse 1 or here in chapter 1, verse 2, he is talking about this, and this is. So again, in understanding, if I pick any book on this shelf, any book, but matter of fact, if I took this book here and I turn to chapter 2 in this book without reading chapter 1, is there any way that I could understand what is being said in this book? Honest question.
You have to read it. I understand what you're saying. You have to read. You have to read chapter 1.
Agreed. So how can we understand what Paul is saying in chapter 2 if we don't even know what was going on in chapter 1 and the background and occasion and all these different other things that is causing him to write this letter? Because if we're not careful, what we run the risk of doing is taking what Paul said to one specific church and making it a universal principle for all churches when it may have been specific to that particular church. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I understand what you're saying. If you start at verse 22, it'll give you the context.
Verse 22 of what chapter?
Of chapter 1.
All right, verse 22 says, in the body of his flesh through death, to present you holy and unblameable and unreprovable in his sight. How does that help us with the context of this particular chapter?
Well, it goes all the way down to 29.
Okay.
But
if you continue,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, but then when like in 25 and 26 are the key verses, but it goes down until there. I was just starting at verse 22.
So, I'm so glad you said that, because earlier you talked about how the gospel, if I heard you correctly, did you make the statement or the implication that the gospel was only for the Israelites?
No, I never said that.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. So who was Paul coming to give the gospel to?
Jews and Gentiles.
Okay. All right. So we just want to make sure we're on the same page. So again, finish, how is the context of all of this fit into what was said in chapter 2?
Well, 25, it says, wherefore I am made a minister according to the dispensation of God, which is given to me for you to fulfill the word of God. 26, even the mysteries which have been hid from ages and from generations, but now is made manifest to his saints, to whom God would make known what is the riches of the glory of this mystery among the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory, whom we preach, warning every man and teaching every man in all wisdom, that they may present every man perfect in Christ Jesus. 29, whereunto I also labor, striving according to his work, which worketh in me mightily. So the mystery is he's bringing everybody back up under the covenant to serve the true and living God, but he's letting them know they have to put down. They can't keep up certain things because, like I said earlier, the statement that I've made that the Gentiles, they also had to follow the holy days when they were coming up following the true living God. They could not do what they wanted to do and serve holidays that they was already doing. They couldn't do that.
My argument with you, and I'm trying to understand how you reconcile that when you say that this is about the argument of the holy days, and that what the manifestation of this mystery is that, if I heard you correctly, you're saying that the mystery there is that the Gentiles are now coming in and they have to keep the holy days. Did I hear you correctly, or did I misunderstand you?
No, that's true.
Okay, well, that I'm having trouble reconciling that with what Paul says here is the mystery, which has been hid from the ages and from generations, but now is made manifest to his saints. It seems to me that Paul is saying, to whom God would make it known that the riches of his glory of this mystery among the Gentiles. So allow me to finish. The whole argument here in Colossians 1 seems to be about the preeminence of Christ, who is reconciling Jews and Gentiles. But it doesn't say anything here about making them keep the covenant. It doesn't mention anything about the covenant, doesn't mention anything about the feast. Last thing, it would seem to completely disagree if Paul is asking them to keep the feast, but then he comes here and says, but let no man judge you in meat or drink or in respect of a holy day or a new moon or a Sabbath, allow me to finish, which are a shadow of things to come. But the body, or better translations, other translations would say the substance is Christ. So if he seems to be arguing, and I'm landing my plane here, he seems to be arguing that all of these things, these festivals, these new moons, these Sabbath days, these holy days, he seems to be arguing that all of them were a shadow, and a shadow indicates that there is something larger that is looming. and that the substance is Christ. How am I misunderstanding that text?
Well, because through Christ, the Gentiles can come in, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why I said in Deuteronomy 29, we can go read the scripture where the Gentiles that was amongst the mixed multitude that was amongst the Israelites, they had to follow what the true and living God had, the commandments that he had.
That point is not in contention.
But the reason why I said the mystery is because there's some people that teach or that they thought, oh, we're not supposed to deal with them. And that's why you read in Acts chapter 10, when Peter has seen the vision, and then he goes to Cornelius. That is a prophecy that was a prophecy that had to be fulfilled, which is written up in the book of Amos. So now when you go further, he's helping that covenant come to pass. He's helping these prophecies come to pass. And that's why he said the mysteries that are given out to the Gentiles. He didn't say the Jews, because the Jews had the commandments. They had the commandments, and the commandments was given to them. It wasn't given to the Gentiles. But the Gentiles that was there, they made a covenant in Deuteronomy 29 with the children of Israel. And if you're going to follow Christ, Christ is the high priest. You got to follow through his blood, and you're going to accept his blood and his sacrifice. You got to come through him, because no man can get to the Father unless they go through him. And when you go through him, you have to follow what the Israelites was given, and that can be proven. In prophecy, future prophecy as well.
But you still have not, in all of that you said, and I appreciate your explanation. In all that you said, you did not. It doesn't feel like you attempted to address what Paul means here when he says, "Don't let anyone judge you in regards to these things." How is Christ the substance if we still have to keep the feast?
Because if you broke, for instance, what was the judgment if you broke the Sabbath?
I don't know what. I'm not sure right off the top of my head.
The judgment, you was killed, Jew or Gentile. That's why in the fourth commandment it says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy." And the strangers, you couldn't make a stranger work on the Sabbath, on the Sabbath. You couldn't make them. An Israelite could not had a stranger working for them. You could not make them work on the Sabbath. Why? Because they had to follow that commandment. So that's why I say you can't. Brother,
I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry. I'm not trying to interrupt, but you still haven't explained what this verse means.
Well, I'm getting around to it. I'm gonna land my plane. Like you said, you can't judge them. But so now that people that they knew what the commandments meant up under Moses, through Christ, you can't. Through grace has been administered through his sacrifice. You can't kill people because they're not doing it exactly. You can't judge people because they're not doing it exactly how it is up under Moses.
That I do not see that in the text. And again, that allow me to. I don't see any of that being argued here through Paul. So just for the sake of time, because I didn't plan on being this long, I'm gonna ask you to summarize your argument because this whole thing was supposed to be about Christmas and being pagan and everything. So in 2 minutes or so, summarize your argument and what would you like to leave us with to understand? What is your understanding of the text as it pertains to these holidays?
Well, like it was saying in verse 8, it said, "Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the traditions of men, after the rudiment of the world, and not after Christ." So Christ is our sacrifice. Christ, we understand, and we have to follow what the word said. Christ, there's no way Christ said, "Remember his birthday." These are philosophy. This is things that happened through men that came upon us, and people started doing it.
So I don't want to interrupt, but I want to ask a question. So please forgive me. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, brother.
No, so you brought up again, there's no way that Christ asked us to keep his birthday.
No.
This is not a birthday celebration. No one is arguing that Christmas is a birthday celebration. So you're arguing, you know what a straw man is?
I'm not arguing that one. I thought I was summarizing.
I'll let you finish and I won't interrupt. My apologies.
So I know some people, they know that Christ wasn't, like yourself, Christ wasn't born December 25th. But these are things with the word, and I'm edifying for the audience. We know that Christ wasn't born December 25th. No man knows the actual day. They can philosophize it and say, well, we do this because whatever reason. But how can we as believers follow holidays and not follow the holy days that are written in scripture, and they tell you that these are things, a shadow of things to come. That has nothing to do with Christ. Christ said do something in remembrance of him. He never said celebrate Christmas after him. He never said celebrate Lent. He never said celebrate Easter. He never said celebrate those things. When Christ was teaching, he was teaching out of the Torah. So he was telling people to come back to the word of God. He was telling people to come up under that, to teach them that he was giving them a better way to do it. Today, we can't just celebrate certain days as believers and then just forget about the days that the Most High said. That's written in scripture says celebrate. These things is philosophy. And that's what I want to say.
All right. Last question. Does it have to be in scripture for us to celebrate it?
I think if we're going to celebrate some things, they should be in scripture.
So then how do we justify the celebration of Purim and Hanukkah, which were not commanded by God, but without question, and I can show you the sources if you weren't on here, without question, Hanukkah and Purim were instituted by men. Judas Maccabeus for Hanukkah and Mordecai for Purim. They were not commanded by God. Would you agree?
I agree. Leviticus 20.
Why would Jesus then be in error if he is found celebrating those holidays, or the Jews, if Jesus or God did not command those holidays to be celebrated, and we agree that they were instituted by men? Why was it good and appropriate for them to celebrate those, but it's not appropriate for us to celebrate Christmas?
Well, Christ was an Israelite. He was celebrating those. He was celebrating those things. That was part of the tradition of the customs.
But you just said that we can't celebrate traditions. You walked yourself into your own you contradicted your own argument. I'm not just talking about Christ. We're not just talking about Christ. All of the Israelites were keeping these customs and traditions.
I understand that, but you brought up Christ. It's written in scripture, John 10:22, where Christ was celebrating. He was keeping that feast. It's a memorial. Right. That's all it is. It's a memorial.
And all Christmas is a memorial of the incarnation.
But from who?
Men. The saint, just like Judas Maccabeus, instituted a tradition and a memorial to celebrate Hanukkah. Just like Mordecai instituted a tradition and, to celebrate Purim and everything. Men instituted traditions to celebrate the incarnation of Jesus Christ. So it seems to me to be a direct parallel, and Jews were keeping it, and God never told the Jews, don't keep them. So I'm having a hard time understanding why they can keep Purim and Hanukkah, which were traditions of men, instituted by men, but we cannot keep Christmas or Easter, which are traditions of men based upon biblical events.
Well, those events was a memorial of what was happening to God's people.
So is Christmas and Easter.
So Christmas and Easter is holidays that has something to do with God's people.
Christmas was, please forgive me. Christmas is a celebration of the incarnation. In Luke chapter 2, the angels, the wise men, the angels, the shepherds, Simeon and Anna, all praise God for the birth of the child in Luke chapter 2. In Matthew chapter 2, the wise men celebrated the birth and incarnation of Jesus Christ. So again, it is absolutely based upon scriptural events, biblical events. Same thing with Easter. Easter is literally the word, comes from the German word Ostern, which means resurrection. So both of these events have a direct link to biblical events. Just like Purim and Hanukkah have direct links to historical events that happened to the Jews. So why can't we celebrate them?
Well, in Acts 12:4, when it talks about Easter, right? Does that word go back? Does that word go back to Passover, correct?
Yes. Do you know why?
Yes.
Okay, I'm listening.
Because they was celebrating Passover.
So why did the King James translators use the word Easter?
when you look at it, it's a mistranslation.
According to what?
When you look in the New King James, it doesn't have Easter there.
It doesn't. I agree. And no other translation other than the King James Version has the word Easter. My question is, why would the King James Version translators utilize the word Easter when we agree that what it was actually talking about was the Passover? So once again, my direct question is, we agree that the word there in Acts chapter 12, verse 4, just for the audience, let me bring it up. In the King James Version, it says Easter. No other translation, to my knowledge, uses the word Easter. They use the word Passover. So my question to you is, what made the King James Version translators utilize the word Easter there in Acts chapter 12?
It's a mistranslation.
Okay, so if it's a mistranslation, again, my question is, why did they use that word instead of the word Passover?
Well, I can't tell you why. Okay. I can't tell you why. What I can say is, when you look up in a Bible dictionary or Strong or Blue Letter, whatever dictionary, it's gonna say Passover. Correct?
I agree.
So
that point is not in contention.
Okay, so then that's what I'm saying. They wasn't somebody that celebrates Easter or think Easter is biblical. They're gonna look at Acts 12 and 4. They're gonna say, well, the word Easter right there, not knowing that it means Passover.
Right. So let me explain this, and then I appreciate you, but drop you because I don't want this to manipulate the rest of the conversation. I appreciate your time. So from my research, and I can pull up the sources if anyone wants to do it. I've done a whole PowerPoint. Y'all know I got PowerPoints on all of this stuff. The reason that in Acts chapter 12, verse 4, the King James Version's translators decided to use the word Easter was because it was the first time that Passover was celebrated since the resurrection. That is an empirical fact. All right. So it was the first time that Passover was celebrated. So what the King James Version translators were attempting to do was symbolize, or to bring out for the audience, this Passover is not like the other ones. Like Kendrick said, they're not like us. So they were attempting to make a theological point, and I agree, again, a mistranslation of the word, but it was done intentionally to draw out the point that this Passover now is different. It is now after the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So again,
okay, what source is that?
Okay, hold on 1 second, and then
I just wanted to know, like you said, I'm going to say myself, and get that Book of Pagan Days when you get the opportunity, or you can look into it, whatever the case may be. That's what I was putting in the chat earlier.
Okay, what would be the value of me looking into that before I invest? Because time is the one resource we invest that we cannot get back. So explain to me what the value would be in examining that book.
The same value I have in the other books that you look into.
But I can tell you, so who wrote the book? Is it written by any scholar or any person who has credentials, to be able to instruct us regarding these alleged pagan days?
Well, I don't have the book in front. I don't have the book in front of me as we speak, but I have the book. But I just don't have it in front of me right now.
But are you familiar? So even if you don't know the author, what gives this person, authority, or why should I trust their credibility?
Well, it actually speaks on some of the stuff that you went into about Saturday and things like that. So I think it'll be a good source to look into. If you don't have to look into it, it's your choice.
All right, good stuff. All right, let me bring this out. And I'm kind of flying through this because I haven't looked at this in a minute. All right, so Easter appears once in Acts chapter 12, verse 4. All right, we agreed on that. All right, after seeing what Tyndale had done, the King James Version translators caused the semantic range of Easter to be translated only once in Easter in Acts chapter 12, verse 4. This is because in every instance of the New Testament, except Acts chapter 12, verse 4, the Greek word Pascha represented the pre-resurrection Passover. So it's the Jewish celebration, or in other words, Christ had not died yet, and as the Passover lamb for the whole world. So as I just said, in Acts chapter 12, verse 4, it is a post-resurrection Passover where Christ had died and was risen. So it's an argument. There's no scholarly source or anything here, but the argument is that based upon this, the King James Version translators knew what they were doing. They were aware of all of these other Bibles prior to them. And you can see here, I did a whole lot of research and looking at all of the Bibles that existed prior to the 1611 King James Version, and all of them use the word Pasch. All right. But when we get to so again, that is the reason why we do that is the reason why I believe that the King James Version translators did that, because of its theological significance.
Okay, so that's why I would want to know. So it's an idea, right?
It's a what, sir?
What'd you say it was the source is that source?
I can't remember. I did not quote that one on the slides and everything like that. But
okay,
again,
that's cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, and everything like that. So
nah, man, you've been honest, bro. You've been honest so far, so that's why speaking with you and everything.
Yeah, man. But as long as I think it's very healthy, I think it's very beneficial for people to see that people, even in disagreement, don't have to be divisive. So I appreciate your time more than anything else. I appreciate your perspective. And even though we ultimately disagree, I appreciate that we were able to operate in civil dialogue and everything. And if you are a believer in Christ, I believe we'll be in heaven, and everything like that. And even if you choose to not celebrate Christmas based upon your beliefs, you're still my brother in Christ, and you have my respect.
And one more thing I want for the audience to say. In the King or in the 1,000-year reign, are we going to be celebrating holy days?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Zechariah 14.
Talking about the passage in Isaiah 58, I think it is.
No, I'm talking about Zechariah chapter 14.
Okay. Yeah.
No, but when you get an opportunity, check that out, and then, So that's why, and it will actually go into where it said it's a shadow of good things to come.
Okay, so Zechariah 14, I give you my word. I will look that up, and I will, if I have the time, I'll make a post about it tomorrow. So if you follow me on Facebook, check that out. When I have the time, I'm not guaranteeing it'll be tomorrow, but Zechariah 14, I'm gonna write that down so I'm not, telling a lie.
What's your Facebook page? If you don't mind me asking.
Kevin Bedden Jr.
Kevin.
Yep, just Kevin, like my name in the corner.
Okay, no doubt, man. I'm gonna subscribe to you.
All right, I appreciate it, brother. All right, blessings to you, man. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Bless you, brother.
All right.
All right.
All right, family. So I think it's great. I think it's great to have conversation. Again, ultimately we disagree and everything like that, but I love the fact that we can operate and have conversation and have dialogue. Prayerfully, you all were edified from it. I don't think that I'm not looking for an echo chamber, and hopefully we demonstrated that on tonight. But I think every Christian, and I'll close with this, has the responsibility of doing 5 things. Know what you believe, know why you believe it, know how to defend it, how to share it, and how to live it. All right, I'm gonna say it again. Know what you believe, know why you believe it, know how to defend it, how to share it, and how to live it. And so even if we come to disagreement, the only thing that I ever ask of people who comment on pages or anything like that, be able to defend what it is that you believe, and everything like that. Last thing, and just in the context of Colossians, I am one of those people that firmly believe I don't want to go to other books. I don't want to go bouncing around Hebrew hopscotching and everything, not saying that my brother was doing that. But if we're going to look at what one verse of scripture says, the first thing that we have to do is examine the context and ask ourselves, why would Paul be writing to this group of people in Colossus? What precipitated Paul's writing to this particular group of people? Why was he writing? And so you want to utilize a Bible handbook. You want to look into Logos, Bible software, something that a good study Bible will help us to understand the context of what was going on. And a lot of times there's no better thing to give us context other than the scriptures. So before we go to Colossians 2, we've got to look at what Paul argues in Colossians chapter 1 to see how it informs us of what he is writing in chapter 2. So hopefully you all see, kind of what the mental process I go through in studying the scriptures and everything. So Say thank you, man. You done stuck around for quite a bit of time and everything like that. I ain't gonna put that on the screen. All right. Darshani says, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. The Bible tells us to study to show ourselves approved. Why would we refer to works written by those who have not done that yet? You asking the question I want to know, sis. And that's why I asked, who is this person? Why should I listen to them? What are their credentials? That's the problem I have with these people who believe God's name is Yahuwah and Yahusha. What if you've never taken a class in Hebrew? Why should I trust you? If you've never taken a class in the law, you're not going to defend me in a case. If you've never taken a class in medical school, you are not going to, operate on me. So you can't even operate in my mouth without, you got to be a dentist. We require professional credentials, experience, professional certifications in every aspect of our life. But then we will let people speak to our soul in things that have eternal value, that have no credentials, no education, no discipleship training whatsoever. And you're allowing them to tell us about Hebrew texts, and they've never taken a single class in Hebrew. I genuinely don't understand that. I genuinely don't understand that. So, all right, good stuff. There he is. What's going on? Bro Caldwell, what's up, man? Good stuff, man. Good to see you. All right. Tay said, I'm an aspiring apologist in this conversation tonight. It was very good. I'm really glad, man. So I'm really glad. So thank you all so much. Last question. One more time, y'all. Again, if you are interested in getting any product from my website on how to study the Bible, the things that we talked about tonight or demonstrated tonight, and everything, please support this Christmas giveaway. Y'all, I just want to be a blessing to these kids. I want everybody to have a Merry Christmas. So you can get a PDF of anything on my website. Go on there, take a look. You can get a PDF copy of any of these teachings. It's some really good stuff in there, y'all. This is the one I was just looking at, this particular thing here. All right, you can get a PDF of all of those. The only thing that we're asking you to do is go to greaterworksdiscipleshipministries.com and participate in our Christmas giveaway. There is a list of Amazon wish lists on there. There's a list of wish lists on there. Purchase a toy for $20 for a kid. Send me the DM and everything like that, and I will send you a PDF copy of anything from my website. Or you can just go on there and be a blessing because you want to be a blessing to somebody in this Christmas holiday. It's 50 of us online. If everybody bought one thing, we could bless 20 families to have a Merry Christmas who just simply can't afford it. So again, I'm not asking you to give any money to me. Greater Works has already invested $1,500 into these families. We've already purchased every single family. We've bought at least 3 toys from their Christmas wish list. All I'm asking you to do is go to Greater Works Discipleship Ministries page. Go to the page. Go to my page or whatever. Find the Amazon wish list. Purchase a toy for a kid. I think that is the least that we can do as followers of Christ, to give to somebody else and everything like that. Everybody, would you do me a favor and wave goodbye? This is going to be my petty pastor moment. Wave goodbye to Jason Trudeau because he's about to get blocked. So everybody, if you would, if you got the little waving emojis, go ahead and get your last comment in, my brother, because you are absolutely about to get blocked. All right, everybody wave goodbye. All right. Yeah, and there it is. He's blocked. All right, bye. All right, there's no reason to be disrespectful. And again, can we do it one time, y'all? Live on TV. Live, y'all get to see me block Yahuwah and Yahusha live on Facebook and let me put his comment back up there. Anytime, this is what I think. Every time I see did it disappear? Oh, there we go. Yahusha, y'all ready? Here we go. Yahusha. All right, boom, there we go. I had to be petty for a moment, y'all. I'm dumb. All right, anyway. I love y'all so much. I hope y'all learned something tonight. I hope you were edified by this conversation. Yep, the red balloon pop live. I'm telling y'all, I'm gonna have some fun with these people, man. I'm gonna have some fun with them. Yahoo and Yahoo Shanette. And I don't want to hear that mess, and everything like that. I don't want to hear that. Go purchase something for these kids. Go be a blessing to somebody, and everything like that. Listen, I love y'all so much. Everybody have a wonderful evening. God bless you and good night. God bless.